here we go. We are recording. Welcome to another Zoom call. We have a number of questions to get through, and then we'll open it up for your chat. So let's get started. First, some reminders. Remember that if you do have questions about something, always go to the website first and do a search in this little thing where the arrow is pointing to. Any page of the website, you can do that search like that, and you can see ask a question. So, and we may have made a blog post about it at some point in time. So if you have a question about different things like, has he ever talked about, whatever, you could at least get some ideas. If we made a video, if I've made a blog post or something like that, that could be helpful for you. All right, let's get to some questions. We are initiating a gradual decadron dexamethasone wean. So this person who's writing this question is weaning off of an anti-inflammatory steroid. What RIFE programs should we run for this? Well, there isn't any specific RIFE programs to help you wean off of something, but if you understand the mechanism of action of the drug, then you can try to do some RIFE programs that will help support what that drug was trying to do. In this case, this is an anti-inflammatory. So running some swelling programs, some anti-inflammatory, I think there's an inflammation program and a swelling program on the RIFE. Those are two things that you could run. The RIFE can have some benefits for swelling and inflammation, but that's not the key component of the RIFE, is swelling and inflammation. So there's some limitations to the RIFE. It's a tool, you have to use it the right way. It's not going to be a great tool for decreasing inflammation. What else could we do to support this? Well, that's the next question. What else could you do? Well, upping anti-inflammatory nutrients like curcumin, resveratrol, EGCG from green tea extract, white willow bark, stinging nettle, boswellia, things like that, quercetin, even N-acetylcysteine can help a little bit. The vitamin the delta tocotrienols from vitamin E. Remember, vitamin E has 4 inner components and 4 outer components. The outer components are the tocopherols. The inner components are the tocotrienols. The delta tocotrienol can be anti-inflammatory, can reduce inflammation and cytokine formation. That can be helpful as well. So things like that. Other tools that can be helpful to decrease inflammation, coffee enemas can be very helpful to decrease inflammation. Anything that you can do to support parasympathetic function. So go back to the blog post on, let me pull it up real quick, a blog post on parasympathetic tone would be beneficial. So, goodness sakes, here, let me grab it. If you just go again to that search bar and you search sympathetic or parasympathetic, and you'll see a blog post on sympathetic parasympathetic tone, and it will be it look like that at the top, and that has a video to talk about different things that you could do to stimulate parasympathetics. On that blog post, also you have 2 different PDFs that you could download, one on reducing sympathetic tone, one on increasing parasympathetic tone. So I won't go into details on that. I've talked about that on a lot of Zoom calls, and you can watch that video. So anything you could do to decrease sympathetics and increase parasympathetics are going to be helpful to decrease inflammation. We are running the 18-minute adrenal program 1 to 3 times a day. That's good too. That will help. So you want to decrease inflammation. You want to stimulate just a good balance of hormone function. So the other thing you can think of is adaptogens. So adaptogenic herbs and adaptogenic mushrooms can be very beneficial too. Next, I was wondering about being able to have an evening drink with my wife. We used to have a drink together, which hasn't happened very often at all. Vodka came up as a possibility. I think vodka is made from potatoes. Can you share any thoughts about that? So alcohol and cancer, that's the real question. How much alcohol can a person drink where it starts to become bad for them? Well, there's some, it really, partly it depends. I don't know who was asked this question, but it depends partly on what type of cancer you have. I mean, one blanket answer would be you should stay away from alcohol completely. And one of the reasons that arguments that you could make for that is that alcohol is going to tax your liver. So no matter what type of cancer you have, if you're going to drink alcohol, you're going to take up a lot of cytochrome P450 energy to get rid of the alcohol. Alcohol converts to an aldehyde, and it takes a lot of energy in your liver to deal with that. So is that a wise thing to do when you're dealing with a serious disease? And you could argue that it's not necessarily a wise thing to do, even if you're not dealing with serious disease, because that can end up being a factor in you getting a serious disease, is the fact that you have taxed your liver. So you put stress on your liver, you took up energy from detox pathways that now you can't detox the heavy metals that you were exposed to or the other toxins that you were exposed to, and then that settles in the cells, and then that's the cause of a future cancer. Well, maybe you never would have had that settle in the cells. You would have been able to detoxify it if you weren't taking up energy from these detox pathways to deal with alcohol that you're dealing with. Well, this is a downer conversation, isn't it, for people who like alcohol? Well, but that's the truth of it. It gets worse if you have any inflammation in the brain. So if you have had chemotherapy, so you already have some damaged microglial cells in the brain, then alcohol is an absolute no-no. You're just in all the studies with microglial priming, that's damage to specific brain cells. Alcohol across the board was a major player in causing increased inflammation of primed microglial cells. It's just the people that have any type of brain inflammation from either they did chemotherapy or they had a brain tumor or they had concussions, post-concussive syndrome. Even if you're 60 years old and you had concussions when you're a teenager, you really need to stay away from alcohol. There's a lot of downsides. So it's like, gosh, this is okay. He's really busted my balloon here. But is there a balance in all of this then? So I'm telling you all the negatives of alcohol, but is there a balance in this? Well, yeah, you have to find that balance. Drinking one vodka tonic a night, I think, is way out of balance. So that's not, to me, a balance. If you're going to drink a couple drinks of vodka, a couple vodka tonics a month, maybe that would be a balance. Well, how about wine? Wine is different. Wine has a lower alcohol content than 80 proof vodka. It's only 12 proof or whatever in wine, so it has a lower alcohol content. Well, that's true. So it is going to do less damage on your liver. So could you have a glass of wine a night? Maybe, again, you're taking up energy from your liver detox pathway. So maybe I would say maybe a couple glasses of wine a week would be maximum. And again, if you have any inflammation and any evidence of prime microglial cells, I would say that you can't do that at all. And if you have questions about what I just said about prime microglial cells, go to the website again, and in this section right here, search for neuroinflammation. I think it's under. I think that's what I have a video on prime microglial cells, what that is, and I think it's under neuroinflammation. And it's a 30-minute video, and it explains what I just said there in detail as far as anatomical and physiological function of what takes place in your brain. And alcohol compounds that greatly. So I just made a lot of enemies there, but sorry. Next, how much of your foot should be underwater in the foot bath? You want to get as much of your foot underwater. So how much water should you put in there? You want to fill it up about, so that it's a few inches from the top so that you can actually pick it up without spilling it while you're going to the sink. So, but you want to get your foot in there so that you have enough surface area that is underwater that's getting benefit. The next, in my binder, it says, can I eat that I can eat various types of meat except poultry. So that's just what tested for you. So then how much meat is recommended? So we typically don't recommend that you eat meat unless you know that you do better. So let's say even if a person tests that we're testing for, when we're testing foods, we're testing for any foods that are driving the cancer or feeding the cancer. So if in this case, you could eat various types of meat except poultry, then hold on, let me stop the video there. So you can't eat poultry. So that means you could eat red meat or you could eat fish. Does that mean you should or you have to? No, it doesn't. It means that those things are not driving the cancer. Some people do better not eating any meat or hardly at all. They might only eat it once a week. Some people feel horrible if they only eat meat once a week. They need to eat it every day. That has to do with your body type, how your methionine pathway, how well you're breaking down B12 components, how well you absorb B12. There's other things that are in that mix, not just what's feeding the cancer. So everybody's different that way. So in your case, if it says that you could eat various types of meat except poultry, how much meat is recommended? We're not recommending how much meat. It has to do with your energy level. If you do really well and you feel like your energy is really good, and boy, I eat only fish, I haven't had any red meat, and I haven't had any pork, and I only eat fish once every couple of weeks, my energy is up and doing really good, then just stick to that. So, but there's other people that, boy, if they don't eat some meat a little bit every day, then they're down in the dumps, then they need to do that. Everyone else says that animal protein feeds cancer. So I kind of addressed that. When we're testing for it, we're testing for what is fueling the cancer. So no, this is a wrong statement. I don't care what everybody else says. I mean, they might be right. I'm just saying my opinion is animal protein does not always feed cancer. We are meant to be omnivores, but we don't want to be fueling the cancer. So with some people we tested, they're not on any meat. And a lot of people, that meat is not feeding their cancer. Something else is feeding their cancer, and they can eat meat. And they feel very horrible if they don't eat meat. So cancer is different with everybody, and cancer's fuel source can change in a given person as well. So when we test you, this is why we should do follow-up cheek swab tests, because your cancer can change its fuel source. So if you're in original testing, it says you can eat everything except poultry, we could test you again in 3 months, and now you can't eat pork or poultry. something like that. It can change your body. The cancer is trying to find a fuel source all the time. So you have to be fluid and moldable when you're dealing with cancer because things can change. Will a U-tip capsule, so U is a evergreen shrub that grows in multiple different areas and climates, and it is becoming a more popular nutraceutical, and it can be a good immune stimulant. So it's in the family of what's that other evergreen that is I can't remember it. I'll think of it in a minute. But it's becoming a more popular nutraceutical. Can it interfere with black sap? No, I have not heard that it interferes with black sap at all. So no, I would say you could take it right along with black sap. My doctor questions if the use chemo-like action will suppress my immune response. No, because it actually is an immune stimulant. So I don't believe that's true at all. The black sap needs the immune response to exteriorize the tumor. So no, you can. It's not an immune suppressant, and it's not and it's not an oxidizing agent like chemo is. It doesn't damage your immune cells, so you could do them at the same time. What do you consider histamine foods? So this is a good question to go right back to the blog here. So you go right back to the website, search for histamine foods. I've written 6 or 7 articles on histamine foods. And one of the things that you'll find is an article that says low histamine diet, the high histamine food list. So that gives you a list of all those foods in that histamine diet. There's a whole 30 histamine food list in there too. Whenever you're trying to decrease histamines, which all of us probably should try to decrease histamines in our foods, it's just that. It's trying to decrease histamines. You cannot eliminate histamines in your food. It's impossible. It's basically histamines are in just about anything. And if they're not in something, if you put that thing in the refrigerator a couple of days, they will be in, you'll have histamines in that thing. It's not a matter of eliminating histamine. It's just reducing the histamine load on your body. Histamine builds up in the person's body, and you have specific genes which help digest histamines in your gut. Those are your DAO genes, and it's made by that enzyme is made by the DAO gene, and it's called the DAO enzyme. You also have that enzyme made by a different gene in the tissues, your HNMT gene, makes it in the tissues to decrease histamines in your tissues. So decreasing histamines in your diet is to try to take down the histamine load. Histamine is an inflammatory molecule. It's taking down that histamine and that inflammation in the gut, and it can be very helpful. Most people probably eat too many histamines because of damaged guts. We have, even if you have very little defects on your DAO genes, you probably don't break down histamines as well because of the damage of everybody's guts because of GMO foods, especially. So reducing your histamine load would be good for everyone. One could make an argument about, but look, you'll see that whole histamine diet on that. Also, if you were told to go on a low histamine diet, your liaison probably sent you that whole 30 diet already. So look in your email box as well. Can you talk about proteolytic enzymes, especially serrapeptidase? So proteolytic enzymes. So enzymes are made by proteins. They are a protein. They're made by your body, different parts of your body. Your pancreas makes a lot of your digestive enzymes. Proteolytic means they break down, lytic breaks down proteins. So a proteolytic enzyme is an enzyme that breaks down proteins. A lot of enzymes do break down proteins. You do have enzymes that break down fats. Those are called lipases. And you have proteins that break down starches called amylases. So there's different types of enzymes, but serrapeptidase is one of the enzymes that can be very anti-inflammatory. It can also help reduce pain and swelling. It can be very beneficial for the gut. It can be very beneficial for the respiratory tract, for bronchitis and chronic lung issues and chronic respiratory and asthma issues. It's even said to be good for blood clots, but lumbrokinase is a much better enzyme for blood clots and nattokinase. But serrapeptidase is a great enzyme for a lot of things. Of course, I'm very big on all the enzymes. So I really like the different mixed enzymes from US Enzymes. And those are probably one of my favorite enzymes because they are so clean in their production. That company is in their enzyme production. So you get a really good quality enzyme. But they actually make a lot of enzymes for a lot of other nutritional products too. So if you're using an enzyme, it might actually be made by US Enzymes. So, so serrapeptidase is an enzyme that can be beneficial for all those things. So enzymes can be extremely beneficial. People think of them as just, oh, they'll help me digest my food, but they do more than that. So especially if you take enzymes on an empty stomach, you will absorb more of them. So they'll do less work because there's going to be less work to do in the gut itself. And you'll absorb those enzymes and they have action systemically. So they can help with in your bloodstream, they can help in your tissues. Dr. William Kelly's enzyme therapy for cancer is taking high doses of enzymes to help so that you absorb them on an empty stomach, of course. So you absorb them and they help break down the cancer. Now, every single one of our patients has been tested for enzyme therapy. If we don't have you on a fairly high dose enzyme, then you didn't test for that. But enzymes, even if you don't test for it, can be really good for a lot of things. And remember, just because you have cancer, this is what we're testing you for when you were doing the cheek swab and stuff, doesn't mean you don't have other conditions too. So there can be, a good argument that you should be taking supplements for and different things for other conditions, or you should be eating right. Just like going back to the question about food and should I be eating meat? How much should I eat? And I heard animal protein is not good for you. Well, some people don't do well on animal protein. They shouldn't eat it at all, regardless of whether it feeds their cancer or not. So you do want to treat yourself as systemically and holistically as possible. So there's times to use that. And one of my favorite supplements that I take every day, almost without fail, are enzymes. So they can have a lot of benefits. I'm obviously real big on HCl and digestive enzymes for gut health and digestion, but using the Digestime Plus from US Enzyme, I even believe that has serrapeptidase in it. But I take personally the lumbrozyme and the nattokinase because I'm very susceptible. I don't know if it has something to do with my genes or not to the spike protein. I don't feel well after I've been around people that have been vaccinated. Sorry if you've been vaccinated, but so I'm conscious of this thing right here. So it's the lumbrokinase and the nattokinase are better for that. And if that term is new to you, I have a blog post. So just search lumbrokinase up here. And I have a blog post on that, and you'll be able to see that. So if you just start typing it in, you'll be able to see the blog post if you want to. Next question. How many hours between the night and day treatments? Now understand, when I write these questions down, I'm literally copying and pasting from somebody's email. So I'm assuming that that person is saying that they're do they have to, is there a recommended pause between doing my night programs, and then should I pause for a period of time between if I'm going to do my day programs? The answer is no. I mean, you can literally run the Rife 24/7 if you want. But the only time we really recommend that for people is if a person's cancer is growing crazy. We do want you to live your life. So when I was at my worst, I was running the Rife all day at work, and I was running it as soon as I got home in my chair, and all night long I was running the Rife. So, and that's how my staff knew I wasn't feeling good, because I had my Rife running. So they would go, "Oh, he's not doing so good today. He's got his Rife running during the day." So I tend to be a person that doesn't sit down for very long. When I'm working at my computer, I obviously do, but I'm the kind of person that goes on vacation and drives his wife crazy because we're going to finally sit out and lay down on the beach, and I'll sit down for 5 minutes and have to get up and walk the beach and listen to a book on tape or something because I can't stand to sit any longer. So, but that's just me, and that makes it hard for me to Rife when I'm when I need to during the day. So, but there does not have to be any pause between night and day treatments. You can run it 24/7. Next, is the grounding mat left on the bed at night? So the grounding mat that comes with your Rife is specifically for the foot bath, for the Ion Pro Wave. That's what it's for. It's not for you to use at night. If the question that this person is asking, they're not talking about the grounding mat that came with their True Rife, they're talking about a grounding sheet that they bought, or a grounding mat at some other distributor or something that they purchased. Should you have it on your bed at night? So here's my take. I know Mike at True Rife has a different philosophy about this, but this is my line of thinking. So you're running the Rife, you're running the frequencies out of this bulb. The frequencies are going to be attracted to a ground. So if you have a grounding sheet on your bed, my recommendation is that you put the grounding sheet only on the lower part of the bed. So on your buttocks down goes the grounding sheet. And why would you do that? Because you're holding that Rife on your chest, you're snuggling with it, laying on your back. Let's say you roll on your side, the Rife bulb is laid on your mattress. And if you have a grounding sheet there underneath your fitted sheet, you could be losing a lot of the frequencies to the ground. It's to the grounding sheet, out the wire into the machine, and out the ground, into the ground, into the ground. So you could be losing a lot of the benefits of the frequencies. You want the frequencies to go through your body, otherwise they're not doing anything. So it's not helping you. So that people have asked us that lots of times. How come you don't sell a grounding sheet with your package? We do have grounding sheets if you want to buy one, but you only use it on the lower half of your bed. I don't want you using a grounding sheet while you're rifing, unless you can be very conscious about your bulb placement and I stay on my back all night long and I don't even move. So the bulb, I wake up and I'm still snuggling with the bulb on my abdomen. Then you'd probably be fine with the grounding sheet. So, but not everybody is like that, and not everybody stays in one position all night long. So, but if this question is addressing the grounding mat that came with your Rife from us, it should not even be used at night on your bed. It's only used with the foot bath. And then how many times do you do the foot bath per week? How many times should you do the foot bath per week? Everybody's different. So if we programmed some specific cancer program, foot bath programs for you, I would say do that a couple times a week would be good. So I've told everybody that has asked me, because I'm completely upfront and honest with myself, I never do the foot bath. Is that good? No, don't do what I do. Do what I say. So I don't do the foot bath because, again, that's just me. I can't sit there and do the foot bath. So but is it good to do the foot bath? Yes, there's some great benefits to the foot bath. You have this great tool, use the foot bath. How many times? We have some patients that do it every day. Can you do it too many times? Yeah, you could do anything too many times. Would it hurt you if you did it 5 times a day? Probably not, but you should be living your life, not doing your foot bath 5 times a day. Doing a foot bath once a day is probably really should be your maximum. So that should be only if you're really doing poorly and you're not feeling well. But if you're starting to feel well and stuff, you need to start focusing on other things in your life and fulfilling your purpose and not sitting there doing your foot bath. Then doing it every couple times a week is more appropriate. All right. Next question. Oh, that is our last question that was on here. So start chatting in your questions if you have them. Here's one that came in. What is the role of Epsom salt in the liver gallbladder flush? So Epsom salt in the liver gallbladder flush. So the liver gallbladder flush is another tool to help flush out your gallbladder. It's a liver gallbladder flush. You can see it again on our blog page. There's a mild, and which I always recommend people start with, and that doesn't involve Epsom salts. And then there is more severe gallbladder flush, if you want to say that, and that is using Epsom salts. It just helps draw a contraction from the gallbladder to help you're trying to get the greatest contraction of the gallbladder. That's what you're using the Epsom salt with the olive oil. So you're trying to get the greatest contraction of the gallbladder so it squeezes out as many of the stones as possible. Make sure that isn't the first liver gallbladder flush you do. Make sure you do the mild one several times before you get to the Epsom salt one. Any other questions? If you have a question, you could unmute yourself and verbalize your question, or you could chat it in.
What is the reason for saying that we are not supposed to have bone broth when it also says we're supposed to drink soups?
So it depends on the person. So bone broth, bone broth is made by boiling bones for a long period of time, whether it be chicken bones or it be beef bones or pork bones. You're boiling it and you're getting the broth from the bones. What you're getting from that is you're getting a very high concentration of glutamine. Well, so bone broth is a really great tool to help heal a person's gut. So the epithelial cells that line your small and large intestine feed off of glutamine very powerfully, and it really helps them multiply and grow and heal. Glutamine can be a very strong driver for growth. And that's why glutamine is contained in a lot of bone healing supplements. So you see some gut healing GI supplements. It can contain anywhere between 1 gram to 5 grams of L-glutamine. And the reason why is it's basically a supplement of, what you'd find in bone broth, and it can be very effective and help healing the gut. Well, it heals the gut because it stimulates growth, not just of epithelial cells, but strongly of epithelial cells. Well, if you have cancer, glutamine, even if your cancer is not driven, if we tested you and you could eat meat, I still never recommend high glutamine foods or supplements to a person. So the amount of glutamine you're getting off of a well-made bone broth is pretty high. So that wouldn't be something that you'd want to do. So bone broth is not something that you'd want to do given a cancer diagnosis, even if when we tested you, that meats were okay for you. So you can still make soup without making a strong bone broth. So I boiled my chicken for a couple hours till it fell off the bone, but then I did take all the bones off of it, and I left cut up the chicken, and then I added my vegetables and rice or however I made chicken soup. That's not a really strong bone broth. So when you talk about making a bone broth drink for a person that has serious gut issues, they're talking about boiling the bone broth or leaving it on a simmer for a couple of days in a crock pot to get all the broth out of that bone. You're getting a very high concentrated of glutamine. That's where the same thing as using a supplement for gut healing with a high concentration of glutamine. So that's the reason why you wouldn't want to do a bone broth with cancer. Maybe a better thing to do is to, make a soup, but instead of boiling the whole chicken or boiling it for less time, or number two, using just the chicken meat if chicken is okay for a person to eat, I'm saying, and you're going to make chicken soup and chicken breast and cutting it up and adding just the chicken breast. So you're not getting the bone at all. So then your soup is a very low glutamine soup. That's the idea. So it's the glutamine content in bone broth. You can make vegetable broth that doesn't have glutamine in it. You can make a vegetable soup that wouldn't have any glutamine in it. You could make a chicken soup, like I said, with fairly low glutamine, almost very low glutamine if you're just using the chicken breast, and a little bit higher if you boil the chicken carcass for a period of time. Hopefully that answers that. Back to the chat. Castor oil packs. Instructions say stomach areas. Can they be placed on the lymph area, such as the armpits, chest, anywhere that feels good? Answer is yes. So you can put castor oil packs anywhere. The only place that I would caution you to do it is doing it right over a breast cancer. We've had patients that do it successfully right over a breast cancer, but go slow on that. So if a person has a breast cancer and you're going to put a castor oil pack over it, don't leave it there for a long period of time. I would just even try 5 minutes at a time and see. Now, usually we recommend castor oil packs over the liver. So that's on the right side, lower ribs, and right underneath the ribs. And if you get that right side over the liver, that could be one of the most beneficial places for castor oil packs, as it really helps get the liver moving and will really speed your detoxification pathways. You can put it over lymph areas. It can help with lymph flow too. So there's lots of ways that you can use castor oil packs. Secondly, a lot of people are like, I do another castor oil packs. They're so messy. Even using hot packs, just using hot water bottles, or using that the low EMF hot pack, that electric hot pack that we have that is infrared, is really good over the liver. So if you don't have time to mess with castor oil packs, and you just putting a hot pack over your liver it can have really great benefits too. But yeah, you could move them around, you could do them in different spots. definitely don't put castor oil in your eye or anything like that. But my doctor recommended that I get my eschar biopsied. He said the cancer type might change from a zebra to an elephant. Is that true? And can cancer change types after you've already been diagnosed? I no, I don't know. I don't think so. No. So the type of cancer, a cancer is named by the cell type that is involved in the tumor itself. So, and really, that's really not going to change how you're treating it anyhow. I guess maybe if you were going to do chemotherapy, possibly, I just don't see that being at all an issue. No, why would you do that? No, I don't see that. I'd have to really talk to that doctor to see what his thought process is, but because I'm not jiving with that, and I could be wrong, but I just don't get what he's thinking about there. Is the growth concern with broth also a reason for not fasting more than 48 hours? Yes, but it's a different chemical process. So the fasting for 48 hours, after you fast for more than 24 hours, sorry, after you fast for more than 24 hours, your IGF-1 levels go up. So glutamine, it probably does stimulate IGF-1 pathways. So yes, they are tied together somewhat metabolically. But yes, it's the exact same process that we're talking about here. Exactly right. No matter how well it makes you feel to do that because of growth hormones. Yes, that's exactly right. So if you don't have cancer, fasting more than 24 hours, again, you should work up through fasting processes. But fasting more than 24 hours can be very beneficial because it increases IGF-1. And IGF-1 can be really good for anti-aging, can be really good for cell regeneration because it increases growth of cells. And hey, it's great to have new cell growth, but you certainly don't want IGF-1 poured onto cancer because it's going to increase cell growth. So understand how that is. So things that you would do, this is the hard thing in functional medicine. So things that you would do that would be really good for your heart, are not necessarily really good for cancer. So I want to increase VEGF production because it'll increase vascular endothelial growth factor, growth of new vessels in my heart. That's going to be really good for that. So I'm going to use high nitric oxide supplements and things like that, and different anti-aging things like that that are really good for your heart. You don't want to do that for cancer. So you don't want to increase VEGF. You do not want to increase IGF-1. You do not want to increase vascularization when you have cancer. So some of the things that you would do if you didn't have cancer to help you, live longer, to support vascular function and different things is things that you wouldn't do with cancer. So you got to be aware of that. Next question, Dr. Connors, what is your opinion on Quinton's marine plasma and fulvic acid? I am reading the Bible of Alternative Medicine, and the doctor who wrote the book highly recommends these. They can be really good. I know that the Quinton's marine plasma liquid, that is, I know that Quicksilver carries some, and we have some in our store. It hasn't ever tested, right? We have had it for years when they first came out with it. It's never tested for people for cancer. There's nothing wrong with it. I think it can be good for different things, but it's never tested as a cancer treatment. Literally never. So we've had people buy it. I don't even think we have it in stock right now, but we've had people buy it because they read something about it, or some other doctor recommended it. And I'm sure there's some real good benefits to help balance your electrolytes and such. So I think there can be really good benefits of it. But it's for cancer. For some reason, I was really excited about it when we first got it in 6 or 7 years ago, but it's just never tested. The fulvic acid is a totally different story. So fulvic acid is a fantastic binder. We have it in a lot of products. So fulvic and humic acid are great products. They can be binders that actually you can absorb. They can really help with mold. They can help bind heavy metals. They're great things. They have proven to test really well. They're in a lot of different things that we use. Is bovine gelatin similar to bone broth? Yes, it is. Bovine gelatin has glutamine in it, but it's in fairly low concentration. So if there's a bovine gelatin in one of your capsules of supplements, there's not enough even measurable glutamine in it. But if you're using bovine gelatin in a food, I don't know the concentration if you're using it in a recipe or something like that. So I don't think it's a major concern because I think you have to consume a lot to get the glutamine out of it. So next, there are some RIFE programs that said to use the grounding mat on the back or under the foot. Yes, okay. For example, the ones for back pain. So you can wisely use the grounding mat. We used to actually sell the RIFEs with this grounding. There's on the front of your machine, I think on the F-122s, it still has a grounding plug that you could plug in a grounding wand. We used to sell a grounding wand with the RIFEs too. Then you could strategically place the wand somewhere. It really only worked for like rectal cancer. So if you put the bulb on your abdominal cavity and you put the wand between your cheeks, you could effectively kind of draw the frequencies through the body to that wand. And you can, if you really think about it, use a grounding sheet and or a grounding pad wisely to basically direct the frequencies towards something. So, but then you have to be very conscious of that. So let's say you have breast cancer. Could you put the bulb right over your breasts and put the grounding mat behind your back and then lean back? Yes, you could, but then you got to understand too, just because you have breast cancer doesn't mean you don't have circulating tumor cells in your liver or in your brain. You don't want to have metastasis to those areas. So that's why I caution you about using the grounding mat or grounding sheet or grounding wand when you're using your cancer programs that we have written for you, because you want them to go and disperse as evenly as possible throughout your whole body. You don't want them to necessarily be directed through your body and then out to a grounding pad somewhere. So yes, if you're running different specific frequencies for back pain, you can do that. That makes sense. You're putting the pad behind your back and you want the frequencies to go right through there, right to that area. That makes perfect sense. And that can be a good thing. But I would caution you about use. You have to be very wise with your use of those things when you're running your cancer programs. Okay, good. Any other questions? Okay, so we got a bunch of people on. I do want to make an announcement to everybody is that we are moving our clinic. So anybody that's been to our clinic, you're like, what, you're moving? Yes, our lease is due and we've been looking forward to this date of our move for a long period of time. So we'll have a different mailing address. So make sure you call in and ask for the mailing address if you're mailing a cheek swab to us. Now, we won't have an issue with getting it. We actually have this space and have our mailbox through August. But we had this wonderful opportunity to get in this other space, and we're excited to get into this other space. If you do mail it to this current address, we'll still get it. We'll be checking our mail daily, but we'll be telling you to mail any bulk packages or anything else to our new address so that I won't be sitting outside our door. So make sure you call the clinic to get that new address if you have to mail anything to us. And that will be the nice benefit of getting our membership only pages done, so that we will be able to put up announcements like that on our membership only pages. And to speak about that, I said at the beginning of this that we hope to have that. I really have them almost completely done, but we're waiting on HubSpot to get it fully published. So I'm hoping by next week or the week after for sure, we're going to have that up and running. Everybody is going to get a bulk email from us. So you will get an email from us on how to log into that. So you'll have a link to get to that membership site. That isn't going to be public, though other people could probably find it if they searched for something like that. But it will be a login only site. So you'll use your primary email, the one that we will email to you, and you will then create your own password, just like any other site, and it's password protected. And if you forget your password, there'll be a forgot your password button so that you could create a new password. So, but in there, there'll be a whole bunch of videos. All the Zoom calls like this will be on there so that you can access them at a later date if you so desired, and a bunch of different patient-only things that you can access. For instance, like the 3 binder that was sent to you. People that got a binder 2 years ago, it looks different today because we updated things and changed things. We changed the protocols. Things in life happened. Things in society happened that we had to change, make different protocols for different things. So will be, anytime we update the binder, the updated binder will be in there. And I'm talking about the pages that aren't specific to you. Of course, like your diet is specific to you, but the other pages. I also want to recommend that if you haven't seen already, there, and I know everybody's on information overload already, so I probably shouldn't say this, but my book on the 7 phases of detox is available as a download for you on our website. If you want to look at that, go back to our website, look at books, and this is the book. It's called The 7 Phases of Detoxification. It's not that long. It's less than 100 pages, and it's you could go through it, and it's an easy read, but it talks about the reason why we do make some of the recommendations that we make. That'll help you understand the physiology and some of the reasons why. So that could be a good book. And my book on mushrooms, I finished as well. That's at the editors. That hopefully will be up in the next couple months too. So my book on medicinal mushrooms. So, all right, well, no other questions. We will say good night for tonight. I will probably do next week's Zoom call as well, because I made Michelle do a couple in a row there when I was gone last week. So I'll be praying for you. We cherish your prayers for us as well. And if you need any further assistance, make sure you call and set an appointment with myself or Michelle as well. All right. Love you all. Bye-bye.
So I think what you said about the map, which was what I think you said you found confusing.
Yeah, very.
Was that the grounding mat is actually